Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from the Singapore International Photography Festival. Welcome to the Singapore International Photo Festival's online program to connect you and everyone in the community despite closed borders and stay-home notice. My name is Gwen Lee, the director of Singapore International Photography Festival. It's my pleasure to introduce the photographer and publisher and to facilitate this conversation. To begin, a welcome Yan Yo of Jiazazhi and photographer Chen Ronghui in this conversation between publisher and photographer. Well, before I go into sharing a very brief bio of both speakers of the day, let me perhaps give a short introduction on the festival. The Singapore International Photography Festival is a biennial program that gathers peoples from around the world with a common pursuit of advancing the arts and appreciation of photography. It aims to be a much needed arena for critical thoughts and discussion of photography in this part of Asia within Southeast Asia. The SIPF also functions as a key platform to discover and nurture through its educational and public engagement programs. At the core of SIPF is a firm belief that photography can be enjoyed by all. So SIPF is organized by DEC, an art photography gallery, and DEC is a recipient of National Arts Council major company grant. Today, we have Yan Yo of Jiazazhi Press and Chen Ronghui, a Chinese photographer, to share about his recent publications titled Freezing Land. Who is exactly Yan Yo? Well, many years back when I first encountered Yan Yo with a name, I was being told that Yan Yo name is not the real name. That sounds exactly like the fictional story whereby the protagonist in Ronghui's book, whereby the person in the novel actually gave a fake name. But of course, Yan Yo tell me that this is not a fake name, it's a pen name. But Yan Yo has been playing a very significant role in the whole community in terms of photo book publishing, but also play a very pivotal role in promoting Chinese photography and their works. Some of his book includes Bees and Bearable, Yellow River, Combing Ice and Jade by Kurt Tong, who is also currently exhibiting in Singapore. So what exactly is Yan Yo? Okay, I was being told Yan Yo is called Yan Yo Yuan Di. So Yuan Di and Yan Yo is such a big gap difference. But despite all his name, well, you'll be amazed to know that he has Yan Yo with his publishing, which is just about 10 years old now, maybe 10, 11 years old, has published more than 40 books and more to come. And some of his published book includes, has received a lot of accolades and awards and shortlisted in the Aperture Paris Photobook Award. As well, he has been instrumental in setting out book fairs and a curated exhibition in China from 2012 till now. Well, now let's hear a bit about our photographer here. So Chen Ronghui is a storyteller based in Shanghai, and his photography works, focus on China's urbanization, known for his interest in the issues arising from the positions of individuals within urbanization. He has dived into looking at the community at the northeast of China and also published his first collections of photographs named Chen Ronghui, now parts of China's contemporary photography catalog. He has won numerous awards, including the World Press Photo, Batu's Photo Award, and also received grants from the W. Eugene Smith Grant for Students. And he has also received award from Tree Shadow Photography as well, Ho Dengke Documentary Photography Award. Wow. So many accolades for a young photographer, amazing. So in this conversation, I will hope that through your sharing, the listener online here could understand what exactly is the process behind the publication Freezing Land. And also, if you could share with the listener, how did this collaboration started between you and between the photographer and publisher? So, and now I hand the mic to both of you here. So thank you, Yan Yo and Chen Ronghui. So Ronghui, do you want to start sharing about how did this publication come about with?
Thank you so much for inviting us to have a chance to take a talk today. So I can share some very memory. I mean, at the beginning of making this book, as a photographer, we know, like in particular in China, we have very we don't have like many galleries or something like to present our works. Actually, we have some photography festivals, but it's more about very it's very good, but it's not a good way maybe for photographers to show their works like always. So I think making a book is a very good way for a photographer, particularly for Chinese photographer, to share his ideas, something like that. And I started to do this project, Freezing Land, in 2016. And at the beginning of this project, I had this idea, like I wanted to publish a photo book, but I'm not sure whether Jiazazhi can publish it. You know, Jiazazhi has a very high level of making photo books. So I visited Yanyu many times, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and talked with him like, I want to make a photo book with you and show some photos to him. But I think at that time it's not enough. I mean, for make a good book. Until last year, I almost finished my project, and he said, "Yeah, it's okay. It's time. Like we can do something." Yeah. So I think it's a long time before we made the final decision to make this photo book. Yeah.
Wow. And thank you, Yan Yo. I was actually, when I first received the copy of Freezing Land, and without looking at the content of the book, one thing that struck into my mind is like Yan Yo of Jiazazhi always have a deep interest in how Chinese photographer, or how does Chinese look at the immediate environment, looking at the society, looking at changes around where you live in. Meaning that, like, if you have seen the book of Yellow River, or you're looking at outside, from the perspective of the Chinese looking outside. And even for like the work on looking at say the big green spinal case, whereby looking at the village life, is always about looking out, and here, when I received the book Freezing Land, again, I realized that there's this interest in the social, environmental, society content. So I just wonder, is that something with your interest, or do you think that is something that reflects the current interest of photographer?
Thanks, Gwen, to invite me to this meeting for Singapore International Photo Festival 2020. Yes, I spent many years to follow Ronghui's work. Actually, maybe more than 4 years ago, when he showed his works online and on some medias. But I was waiting for his um, ending of the freezing land. I think in northeast part of China is a very special area for its district, for its history, um, from Manchu period, even for Qing dynasty. It's very important area for China. So when I saw Ronghui's work on I think it's on 澎湃新闻, how to say, the paper in English, the media. I saw the works. That time it's more about a report on that area, about the decline of the economic decline of that area, and the cities get smaller and the people moved away. So that's the start of my idea to want to cooperate with Ronghui, but I didn't contact him and say something about publishing, because it's my style to observe artist for many years. But he is I think it's a how to say, in recent years, especially recent years, many Chinese photographer or Chinese contemporary photo groups, peoples, photographers has too much ambitions, I think, on some, not only on language, on content. Too many people affected by the contemporary art, but actually they do not enough on contemporary art. But Ronghui is a person and an artist who could stay there, just take photos, do his advantage. That's why I finally contact him. Yes, can we do this work together? And that time he was I think got an offer from Yale University, and before he went to United States, he visited to Ningbo, Jiazazhi, and we start to discuss how the schedule, how we work out. And he said he
When was that?
will.
Was it this
I,
year? Last year?
I think from now it's 2 years ago, when he before he went to United States, and he left me some digital files, and yes, and yeah, also he gave me a very higher, yeah, a lot of pictures. He printed the samples to me, yeah, and he asked me to start to select. So that's the start. Actually, every book we publish is very slow, or the process is very slow. And when he was in New York, New Haven, right? New Haven, he contacted me about his new decision. He said maybe it's classmate, no, schoolmates of Yale Design College. Yeah, she is also Chinese. Yeah, and the designer actually, he yeah, introduced the designer to me, and I saw her former works. I think it's good to collaborate together because they are stay together in United States. So it's better to conversation and yeah. So
So the book
yeah,
started 2 years, and the planning sort of like stays at the back of your mind, right? And
yeah,
slowly
for
built
me,
up over years.
yeah, and when I think it's too on winter vacation, he came back and we start to select the final works in Jiazazhi together. Um After the selection, he was back to Yale, and I think it's summer vacation. I think when
Yeah, I think the last week,
summer.
Christmas factory, Christmas holidays. Yeah, I went back to China and with a designer together.
That
Yeah.
was last year, December, November, maybe.
Yeah,
Yes.
November.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So yeah. So
And the
yeah.
and
Well,
the, and the designer, was it like a designer selected by you or by the photographer, or was
yeah.
it your in-house designer?
This book was designed by a designer selected by Ronghui. Uh, she she is she is still studying in Yale University, right? Ronghui.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, but she is experienced before he went to United States. She once worked for one time art museum in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we give meet in Ningbo and talked about the book, and I think I didn't change anything. Maybe
So,
very little decision, very little, and they give me the final version. I think it's I like it. I really very like it,
okay.
and we didn't talk too much. We didn't discuss too much, and I think I'm very satisfied with the final design. And but I think the only thing is I choose the cover with Ronghui when he back to China again to print at June, July maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that time we have we have a I have a chance to involve in this book is to choose one cover. Actually, the yeah, the background of Ronghui's background picture is another version, and your book, your cover is chosen by the artist.
Ah, I see.
Another version is chosen by me.
Oh, so you actually have the book with two different cover, is that right?
Yes, for me, I think for a publisher, I think we should use a picture much more popular. Yeah.
Or
Uh,
pictures that can give impression instantly, right?
exactly, yeah. And for
And whereas
Ronghui,
this is quite abstract. Is that
yes,
right?
Yeah.
yes. That's the point. The only thing we involve is to choose this. And okay, there's another still very detailed, a very special detail is the covers the character. The character we the 空城计 and the title. I mean the title of the book in the cover 空城计 and the freezing land. We once want to like I don't know how to say in English. Do you know 融辉? 烫印.
Well,
It
no.
啊，什
do you
么
do you know Gwen? It's
你在讲
烫印.
烫印？
It's I mean the 会凹进去的.
Oh, I know. The boss, right? You want to have a deboss.
Yes, yes,
We want to have the text to be as a deboss, right? Or
yes.
emboss.
Yeah.
Can be deboss or emboss. So deboss is concave in, emboss is
Yes,
popping up. Yeah.
yeah. It's
So you
in.
want
So
a deboss, right? Yes.
yeah, but it's a very late process, and Ronghui called me, and he tell me the designer want to use nothing, just a print. Yeah, just print. She want to the book be very simple, very common, and he used a word which very impressed me and uh, persuade me in 1 second. He
Oh,
said it's a people's book. It's not a book for yeah for any other. It's very 人民，就是非常
it's
大众
meant
的。
for everyone. Yeah.
Yes, it's just yeah, it's a normal book. So yeah, I think it's a very good point, and it's a key point of this book. So I yeah, I agreed in 1 second. I think yes, she should the design. I mean, the designer should give this suggestion. Yeah, I'm very happy um to accept the final decision. Yes.
I'm sure Chen Ronghui has also realized that in your publications, right, made by Jiazazhi, always ended up uh, so attractive and very lavish way of folding, inserts, different layers. As for example, the work of Coming Ice and Jade was like this amazing amount of cut through hardcover, hard casing, uh, and even the stitches to open fold, you know. So when I so and this is totally very different from all those I would say books, very design driven kind of books, whereby the design come out first and the photography comes second actually sometimes. Yeah. So and Longhui, and when you are working with this designer in presenting the book, what what was the considerations that you had about your work to be placed in the hand of a designer? Because often designer has their very elaborate ideas, you know, and but photographer, we are looking at still image more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very it's a long. I mean, I should say when I started to learn photography, I never received any formal education before I went to Yale. I learned photography by myself in China. So photo book is the start of my learning. So I bought a lot of photo books, some from Jiazazhi and I mean many from like Amazon, from Aperture, from Mac, everywhere. So I collect a lot of photo books, and I realized like something like in China. I mean, I wanted to make a photo book with Yanyo together, like a photo book just it's more about the photographer's photo book. It's not for we don't want to show something, like I just want to show the photo. I mean, also maybe the story behind the photo, or maybe how a photographer observes the world. So I want to share a link in the chat. I'm not sure whether you read this article before, in praise of the photo book by Terakuru, and he is also our teachers. And in this article, he said, like, in a photo book, it's a new world. It's not like the white cube. It's not like the museum. And we want to follow the photographer's vision, or follow the photographer's steps to observe the world, step by step, step by step. So this thing like encouraged me a lot. And even I think you mentioned the cover. I don't want to make a harder cover, and I want to just make a paper cover. I mean, it's enough. Like, I want people just focus on the photos themselves. So you will realize, I mean, the paper cover, and I want to, the book is easy to read. This is the most important thing for a photographer, I think. Because I collect a lot of photo books. I don't want to read some books. It's very hard for me to open the book even. And so I want to make a book with like it's easier for us to read. It's easy for us to take this book, put it in your bag, and you can just read this book everywhere, every time, and particularly during the quarantine time, And so I paid a lot of time in editing this photo book. Actually, we discussed together. I mean, last winter holiday together, and then I went back to New Haven. I print all my photos on the wall, and every time I got a chance, a studio visit, like a very famous photographer, like my professor Greg Cruiser and Justin Kurland, or a lot of photo book maker, some people, and every time I will ask them for some advice and ask them to give me some just some ideas or something. Like, I want to know some points from Western audience, not Chinese people, because we have the contact before we read the book. We know a Chinese Dongbei or East-Western, Northeastern story, but for a lot of foreigners, they don't know the story. So what they can do, just like they just observe my photos and try to get something or try to learn something. So it's like every day I looked at my photos on the wall. I print all my photos on my studio's wall in Yale. So every day I looked at the photos, and during the quarantine time, like this March, like our school was shut down, and we closed the studio, and I collect all my papers back to my house, and still continue to discuss with the designer. And I think it's a long history, like in Yale. I mean, at the Yale School of Art, designer and photographers, we cooperated together to make a photo book. I mean, just for the apertures teacher Leslie Martin's class. So every year there is a designer from the designer department to help photo students to make a photo book. So we have a very long history of making a book, so they can understand our ideas, and I think they have this idea. I mean, the designer Wang Mianwei, she has a idea like it's a photographer's book, and I think she sacrificed a lot. Like, she wants to make the photo book. I mean, the beginning of the photo book is just a photo book. It's not a design book. It's not a book for elite, something like that. It's just for normal people or common people to have a chance to look at photos, and they will say, wow, it's beautiful. And then next, wow, it's interesting, something very simple ideas. So, I mean, the process is just like this.
I also, I mean, I like when you say that when people look at a photo book, they really look at photo, and this is very much demonstrated by this publications. And but the moment, the first things that when I encounter opening this book, it's not photograph. The first thing that I encounter is actually text. It's quite a very long text. And and while the book is kept simple as a very simple form, the text come first in this book. Could you perhaps share why, what is the role of the text here that actually start this photo book, and why this text is important in how people approach your photography works in freezing land? Yeah.
Uh, for this text, for the text we used in the book, I discussed with Ronghui what what the what is the best article for this book. One is, of course, it's kind of correctic article in the by Shi Hantao. It's a very good article. Another one, he gave me a proposal is one novel, a novelist who is now is very popular in China, Ban Yu. He just published two books by imagist Li Xiangguo for the novel about the northeast part, and he is also from there. And when Ronghui set the PDF of the book to him, he is very interesting to collaborate together to write a short novel. And yeah, that's the Ronghui give me the proposal, and the only thing, it's a very good novel, and the only thing is we discuss how to realize in the book, because it's a novel, not a correct article. So
Yes.
yeah, the final decision is I also follow the Ronghui's idea just from the start, from the beginning of the book. But I still want to listen to Ronghui's, yeah, why you finally decide to use it in the beginning, because I totally follow your ideas.
Yanyo, you're too kind to your photographer. You're just way too kind and too accommodating.
Yeah, I should say like
I
thanks
wish I'm
for
the
Yanyo.
photographer.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for Yanyo give me the freedom. It's very, I think so. Just like I mentioned before, in China, or maybe the whole world. I mean, there are a lot of photo books now, and I don't think everyone paid a lot of attention to the photo book, like really read the photo books carefully, something like that. And even even there are a lot of uh, text in the photo book, but I don't think everyone will read the text actually. So I think it's just a
I
cheap
do.
part.
I read everything.
Yeah, I know you will, yeah. But actually, for me, I mean, as a photographer and also as a student or as a learner from the photo book, because I learned everything from the photo book actually. So I paid a lot of attention to the photo book. So I just think like it's just a little like experiment. Like I put a very, maybe a little long, not a little, it's a short novel at the beginning of the photo book, but you can just read the photo first, because I always, I mean, I always like start my work as a photographer. Maybe also my audience, more of them are photographers or artists. So when I receive a photo book, I will read the photos first, and then I will read the text next. So this is always the photographer's way, like to observe or to read a photo book. So I want to put the text first, like if you want to read the text first, it's okay. You can understand what happened in this photo book. But if you read the photo book first and then you go back to the text, you can also understand what's the meaning. I mean, the relationship between photos and the text. And because the text is always happens at the end of the photo book, right? So we usually put the like novels or articles in the end of the photo book. But I think like I just want to balance like the book. Like I don't want to just like leave a lot of text for the readers in the end. It's not a good way for them. Like it just should spend a lot of time reading the text. So I want to celebrate the novels and the commentary like at the beginning and in the end. So it looks like it's balanced them. And so what I really want to do for this book is like it's a photo book, and it's a photo book like for everyone can easily read the photo book. And this is the reason why we wanted to make this book. We don't want to make very expensive thing or very elite thing for audience.
Definitely.
This is, I think,
And when well, I fall into a different category. I started reading the text within the book, and because I read the text, I read this novel, and when I actually start looking through the photograph, I start to sort of like create a very different idea about the photo. It gave me this idea of like the protagonist. Could this be like the protagonist in the novel, the character from the novel that actually appeared in this image, whereby there's this man that was being trapped in the house and they cannot leave. Of course, I know that they are not. That's the fiction is fictions, but what is interesting how the fictional novel left this image in my mind as I was living through the book. And also another thing that I noticed about the book is that the portraits of people. I mean, the novel is actually like a strange, frightening nightmare, you know. Imagine someone who have been trapped. There's murder, there's crimes, there are the fear within the novel, but the portraits is like a contrast. It's calm, you know, it's calm, and the portraits are very collected. Like you don't sense this over drama and emotions like the novel. And again, that almost made me think about this character right at the end. You know, the balloon gang. And one of the character of the balloon gang is a live broadcaster, right? And he appeared in the earlier part of the whereby he was sitting alone in the room and with a very forlorn look. And in this particular connections of the impressions that is left by the novel in the mind, sort of a connect back to the photograph. Yeah. And the last part of the text itself, whereby it's the text by this invited curator, sort of a summarize of the entire book. Yeah. But what I think I truly appreciate about this book is the fact that it's a book that does not need to be explained. How, yeah. So meanings that it's not a work that I will find it difficult to connect. Like, you know, there are some photography works that is abstract and you need a lot of supporting explanations or text to talk about. But I thought that your photography works, which is actually immediately connect to understanding the people and the environment in the northeast of China. Yeah, as simple as it is, this book is, the visuals is actually not that simple, yeah. So, and that's what comes true for freezing land. Of course, maybe because I have been so spoiled by so many good, beautiful books from Jiazazhi that comes with beautiful paper, beautiful cover. So when I hold this book, I say, gosh, I'm a difficult consumer here, right? Jiazazhi, Yan you might also want to share, the expectation of the readers, the expectation of the market pertaining to photo book. And how do you balance this expectation? Even for me, sometimes I would have this kind of expectation. How do you balance these expectations of the consumer readers who aren't photographer, aren't artists? And how do you balance that with like the work of the artist? What comes first? And what's the priority? Because ultimately, as a publisher, it is still about having the book going to different places, right? Having people to pick up. So perhaps I would like to hear from Yanyo here. What do you notice about consumers' interest in photo book and how this has changed? Has it been challenging, like with very demanding consumer like Gwen, for example? But yes.
Actually, I I don't expecting too much about the market. Uh, the the most thing we do or I do is to do the book as we want, as artists want, and we discussed together and figured out, finally published it. Then we also will do the promoting process as we want. We of course we do our best to promote, and we also do videos, talks, and yeah, interviews, but we don't expect some numbers on the book selling. Everything goes naturally, I mean. Actually, yeah, and fortunately, everything we do, every choice we choose, we decide, every decision we decided make a good result. I mean, on the book selling process. And of course, some books we cannot sell too much, but some books we sell really good. Um, every time I just say thanks to the readers, to our supporters. Uh, but um, but I think another when I think about the result, I think um, there's maybe some reason why people um, always interested on Jiazazhi's publications is we always pay attention on the society, on history, on artists themselves. We the, the 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 only balance we do is not the market, but the balance from artists themselves. The work, the works must balance between personal and public. They care about public, and they also care about their own heart. So everything goes naturally, and the book sales good. that's that's my own idea. I don't. It's not a final kind of research, but just my feeling of my all the 10 years publishing things I do in last 10 years.
Thank you, Yanyo. And I believe that is exactly of your exactly of your vision, your values, and that is, I believe, this is the key reason why many photographers in China want to publish with Jiazazhi, because they understand that the visions here is not directed by the markets. The vision is definitely directed by the inner visions and view. And so, oh, we have a questions from a viewer here. Say, thank you for sharing. Are you are you okay with picking up these questions? Yes. Say, thank you for sharing. How do you think about the role of the novel play in your book? Does it does it your intention to use the narrative or the novel to interact with the photograph? That's the questions. Yeah.
I think it's the question for Ronghui, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mentioned this before. Little like I sent all my photos to the novelist, and I wanted he can uh, write a short novel for my works. It's not just very related to my photos, but we have the deep connection between the novel and my photo books, because my works are about northeastern part, and this novelist he lived in that area, and he wrote all the stories about his hometown and based on the local life. So this is very important, like because so from my view is more about the outside view. I'm not a local who stay in that place, but I need some angles from a local view. I mean, this novel provides a local view, and the narrative. I mean, it's very interesting. Like just you mentioned, like it's kind of very horror. It's a weird story.
Like a
It's not
bad
like my
nightmare.
photos. Yeah, yeah. But I just like to make something like this, and I like just like you mentioned, the little boy. I mean, the boy at the beginning of the book, like he sat on the sofa, and yeah, yeah, you can find it boy, yeah, red boy on the sofa.
I think I passed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, on the screen. Yeah, yeah, I can see it. And then in the end, you will find he's kind of like escape from his house outside, but the sheep. I mean, in the end of the photo book, I mean the photo. I took a group portrait for the 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 children's together. It's kind of still they are also stick on a broken ship. It's not a safe place for them. It's another way of like the storm prison. Yeah, yeah. I think the the novel can play not a role like to just explain for my photo. I don't need something like this. I just like the audience can open their mind to read our books. Yeah.
Can I speak some words?
Yes,
Uh,
in
yeah,
your
for me, I think mm, it's really sometimes we need some text to 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 explain to the works, but sometimes the words is too real. I mean, it's too direct. some time. So the novel give us space to imagination, to image um, by themselves. The it's more open. So that's why I accept the suggestion from Ronghui, and it's a I think it's a good experimental to use this short novel in this book, and everyone can get their own imagination. It's very, yeah, together with the pictures, it's a very good, yeah, try, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I love how you describe it, like how the novel as a fictional novel actually play this role to enable the readers to imagine and leaving the answer as open as possible. And well, in a blink of eyes, we're actually coming to an hour of our conversations. But just while perhaps waiting for if there are any further questions from our audience here, this is a time to ask both Yanyo and Ronghui here. But and while we are waiting for questions from the viewer, I have one more question for Ronghui. Yeah, your photograph, which was made over three different trips during winter, right? And you photographed the community in the northeast China. And now the book is published and printed. What are their reactions to your book? What are their reactions, response to your photography for the people from Dongbei?
Yeah, it's it's very interesting. Like once we publish our works or once we like exhibit our works, people always ask me the question like, what's the people who stay in that area react to your works, something like that. And I delivered several copies of the book to the people I took photos before, and they're very happy. I mean, it's very. I think this question is always for photographers. We never asked a painter like, what's the result when you paint the figures? Like Liu Xiaodong paint a lot of Dongbei's people in Chinese in Dongbei, right? And I think there are few people will ask the question like, how about what's the life or what's the view, what's the people's reaction? I mean, it just reminds me like think about what's the difference between photography and other visual arts like painting and movies. Like we don't ask the question for directors like what happened to the actors or what happened to the right. We just ask this question for photographers because we always think photographers bring the truth or bring the facts, something like that. But actually, maybe it's not. I mean, when we do some art plastic, like use photography media, I don't think I make friends with all of them. It's true. I mean, some are just my models, and some people don't. I mean, they don't like my photo, and they cannot understand what I am doing. But some are really my good friends. We chat and many times, and I will revisit the place many times. And we will have a good talk, and we always we went outside to have a barbecue or have a dinner, something like that. But for me, I think most of them are my works models, right? Just like painting did or painters did, just like the directors did. Yeah.
Thank you, Longhui, for your answer. And I think that it's interesting when you say that how the subject itself is a subject within your book like a model, and but also earlier on you also talk about how this is a book for everyone. So and this is always like of course we could not we could not control what is the public's response to a book or a photography works, because it's always subjective and everyone has their own opinion at the end of the day. Yeah. So we have one last question. How to go about finding a designer for a photo book? Is a designer essential? Well, that's a question for both of you, I feel.
Yes,
Maybe for Yanyo.
yes, of course. If there's no designer involved in, you are the designer. Yeah, also you also the designer. So designer is a kind of essential. Yeah, of course it's essential. So sometimes um, I do the design. Sometimes our in-house designer Inhe will do the designer. Sometimes we invite some designers. The only the only aim we want to realize is to communicate with the artist better,
Mm,
who is better to or easier to communicate
mm,
with the artist.
mm,
So yeah, and the artist want to the designer to transfer his idea into a physical book or yeah, sometimes not only a book. Yeah, I think so. I think it's essential.
mm. So, and for Longhui, do you have anything to add to Yanyo's answer on designer?
Yeah,
Can,
and
can
for
you?
me, I mean, try to find like the photo books which you are like you are interested, and you can follow some. You can provide some like photo books, yeah, for the publisher, and maybe they can give you some suggestion, something like that. And you can also just direct to contact with the designers which you are really like. Yeah, try
Okay,
it, send an email. Yeah.
we have another questions coming in. Do you think the photo of subjects with whom you form personal connections ended up turning out more impactful?
More impactful.
Impactful, meaning I guess the question is like when you actually take photograph of people that you have personal connection, will you think that the photograph will come out even stronger, more powerful?
Mm, yeah, or I should provide some very basic information for something like how I contact with the people in Dongbei, because I used a social media called Kuaishou, or just like TikTok
Mhm,
in Western countries, and I always like open. There is a kind of function like said, share the location. So when I went to the Dongbei, I will open I will click this app and try to contact with the people who shared their funny stories in the Kuaishou or TikTok, and I sent the message to them like, "Hi, I'm a photographer from Shanghai, and I want to take a portrait for you, and I want to tell some stories about northeastern part. I mean, the Chinese young people. Could I take a photo for you and something like that?" So we will, and sometimes like they will say like, oh, okay, let's go to some like restaurant, and let's go to the like a bar, something like that, and I start to take photos for them. So this connections comes from the website or internet. It's a virtual connection. It's not a real connection. Before I took a photo for them, and then one, so just like I mentioned before, it's it's something like, when I took photos, they are my they were my models. I mean, they were my photos. I focused more about like light. I mean, the color. I mean, the construction, something like that. I've get every connection with them. I don't think we must make a very good connection, and like just like we should we stay many days with the people, then you can make good photos? No, I don't think. We should try to find the deep connection with them. Even just we stayed like for few hours, you can make a good photo. Because we are visual artists, we are photographers, we should focus on the photography, on I mean on the visual part. And after I finish my job, I mean after I took the photos, we are very good friends. Maybe we are not good friends. So
Maybe you
it's a
say,
little
I don't like
different.
your
Yeah.
photograph.
I mean, it's a little different because people always ask me the question like, do you make very good connection with the people? I mean, maybe before I took this photo and after this take photo, maybe we are good friends. But during the process, I should say I should focus all my mind 100% to the visual part. It's true. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer, Ronghui. And now we are coming to the end of our an hour-long conversations. And I think this conversations with Jiazazhi, with Yanyo, Jiazazhi Press, and Chen Ronghui has been a very fruitful one and a very insightful one on this process between a photographer and publisher. And for those who are listening to this online program, please give both of them a virtual applause to our speakers here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
thank you Yanyo and thank you Ronghui for giving your time and using VPN in order to be with us on this Zoom sessions, and also for those who are listening right now. Um, if you're the books are now available at Jiazazhi Press. If you do Google for Jiazazhi Press, you could pick up copies of the Freezing Land from the Jiazazhi online source. Well, for those out there, if you have enjoyed this morning dialogue, join us again this afternoon at 3 p.m. in a talk by Taiwanese artist Ho Yiting on her exhibition Sewing Theory at SIPF. And with that, we conclude this morning conversation. Thank you.